Oh yeah, oh yeah, it's going down, and I'm not letting his old school ESPN, you know, logic and technical redirects mess with me. It ain't happening. I got my facts. I got my proof. So there ain't no old school tricks working on me, Shot Doc. So you better get your shit straight. Eat your Wheaties. I'm coming for you. I got you, and you're gonna lose.
Don't miss this epic match. Hey, it's old school against whatever school. It's OG against he, whatever he be. Hey, look, I plan to float like a butterfly, but I'm going to sting like a bee. I'm going to do a little rope a dope, and then I'm going to knock his ass out. Oh, yeah. Y'all know what it is. Y'all be there or be square. I'm the OG.
On the barge, baby.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
No, we ain't going.
Sure.
No, we're not going down the air, baby. You getting ready to be shipped off. You know, sail on, motherfucker.
Hey, just make sure it's express mail. I don't want it to be too long of a trip. You know what I mean?
He don't even listen. He don't realize this shit going on the barge, brother. Ain't no airmail on no.
That's too slow.
I'm putting your ass on the water. This gonna be a long cruise. When you land in the Orient, understand.
All right, I got it.
Like here.
I'm gonna put you on a sailboat with no motor.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do.
Let's get this shit going so we can ship this motherfucker out of here.
Seriously, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do this. Let me set my phone up right, because
Hey, man,
I'm down here in Texas, bro.
All right, before you get started, Brad, where you been, man? Where you been?
Or where you been?
Yeah, I'm asking Punk Check, where you been, man?
Oh,
I see
I've
that.
been busy all day.
Yeah, I know, running around. When you got shirt, though, I know you've been visiting some of the homies too, though.
Yeah, me and my buddy were doing a bunch of work around the house. It's hot down here in Corpus.
Yeah.
It's like 110 degrees.
I got you. Yeah, so you're just trying to separate yourself from the whole sportsman group. You didn't want to go ahead and don you didn't want to go and don the brand, huh?
I didn't want it to get, sweat stained. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to ruin the shirt.
I got you. Okay, well, we'll just tear that damn Aggie shirt up. What the hell? That's cool.
Good luck. All right.
Let's go. Let's get this shit started.
All right, let's go ahead. I'll go ahead. Let's cue this.
Ain't no rope a doping over here, buddy. Ain't no rope a doping.
That ain't no rope a dope. The dope come here. No.
I'm about to get James Sony, boy. I'm gonna go duck and bam. That's cut right to the jaw. Bam.
Paya. He didn't even see that. He didn't even see it. See? He didn't even see it. All right, you ready? Brandon,
All right, let's do this.
take the show back over, Brandon, because we're going to take this shit if you don't.
All right, let's take it. All right, let's go ahead.
You're gonna have to try to gain control.
Cue the music, and here we go.
Cheers to you, Shot Doc.
All right, what's going on, MegaCast, Sports Me fam? It's Facebook Live, the MegaCast main event. It's going to be our first one, special doing this. It's two of Sports Me's best, going to battle it out for supremacy. Which one will stand tall and which one's just going to fall flat to the canvas? All right, but
Shot dog.
Before we get into the intros, though, just want to do real quick, Sports Me. Again, this battle is going to be sponsored by Sports Me. It's an app for right now for iOS. You can download it. 30-second battles. If you're interested in sports, debate them, and then you can also be a part of the Sports Me fam. It's a great crew. Two guys right here I'm about to mention are two of the top sports me debaters on the app. So in the corner, the Shot Doc of ESPN. He is currently number one on the Sports Me leaderboard as of right now from South Carolina. Dwayne Everett. Dwayne, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. Brandon, I'm doing really well, man. Just enjoying being a part of the Sports Me family from around the world, and in some cases, I guess, internationally. But, just enjoying being a part of tonight's challenge battle.
All right, glad to hear it. All right, and in our other corner, we got the punk check master of Sports Me, currently is right behind Shot Doc, number 2 on the leaderboard, James Doyle. James, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing good, man. Glad to be on. It's gonna be fun. I'm so glad I can do this with Shot Talk and you, Brandon, and I think it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna be respectful. Might not agree, maybe, who knows? But I
Hey,
guess we're gonna have fun doing it, and it's gonna be good. And then I gotta send Shot Talk off on a sailboat.
It's going to be interesting though, because I've never seen us respectful before, so it's going to be a new beginning for
That's
us.
true. Yeah, I mean, you do kind of.
It would be yeah.
All right, well, without further ado, let's go ahead and begin this. Let's set the scene of this battle. To be honest, this all started really with one team, the Atlanta Hawks, the team that's been in the doldrums of the NBA for the past couple seasons now. Shot Doc, you're very optimistic that eventually Atlanta will rise up once again and prove themselves to be a contending champion as they have in the past. James, you disagree. You say that they're going to be just a mid-level team as they've always been. But Shot Doc, we're going to start this off with you, man. Make your point.
Yeah, let's start with understanding that first and foremost, this team was labeled in that, and we'll call it mid-level, horrible, and to a certain degree, which he'll clarify those points, I'm sure later, is that they were compared to the Sacramento Kings in that their plight is no different than them. That's the last team, the last team to show any level of success in the NBA. No team, other than them, that's the last team. They were, of course, the only team that they can show any level of success with their 1948 championship, of which I think does not really come into play, but it does come into play in their franchise in its longevity.
That was with St. Louis.
And downs. So, and look, if we're going to interrupt each other, then I think we're never going to get a point across that can be actually heard.
That's how we'll do it. Shut that. Finish making your point, and then James, you rebut. That's how we're gonna.
Because at the end of the day, the aggregate end, I'm actually going to try and use more modern day criteria to show that this team has been right there in the mix with some of the better teams. That shows that to say that they have been and always will be basically a mid-level and non-competitive team is a misrepresentation of the Atlanta Hawks franchise.
James?
All right. Sorry to interrupt you, Shot Doc. That was my bad. But yeah, okay, so you keep saying I said horrible, and I clarified that with Brandon when he asked me it, because I'd already said mid-level multiple times before, and definitely after. I said horrible one time when we were debating back and forth, so maybe a little hyperbole there. But please get off the horrible comment. I always said mid-level, and I'm sticking to it.
We'll track from that.
So, here's what we got. The one championship that you talked about was in, 1958 or something? Hold on, I got it written down here. Which they actually weren't even the Atlanta Hawks. They were in St. Louis. They've only been to technically the championship finals 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And those were all before
You see it,
1970.
Right.
So the Atlanta Hawks have never done been to the
Is
championship.
it sideways for you?
Okay.
Let me. I'll call
The
you
Hawks
back.
franchise
Okay.
has been because it is the franchise.
I'll
but
call you
again,
back so
the same
we can
Kings
get
reference you
this
made.
sorted.
I think we need to clarify.
Okay, let's clarify that.
Yeah,
All that I
come to
said-
that.
All that I said was that the only team that has a longer championship drought is the Kings
You
compared
said
to the Hawks.
success, you said success drought. It was the word champion wasn't in it. Yeah, I can pull it up if you want it on
I
screen.
have it right here.
All right, look at it
I
and
got
see.
it written down.
Right, and no, not written down. We're talking about what you typed. We're talking about what you typed.
That's true.
Yeah,
I can wrote
well,
the entire thing.
But I'll pull up the screen so we can read it. You said success.
Go for it.
And that's why we said use what we wrote, not what we proceeded to back into later.
I'm going to find it right here.
Yeah.
So you pull it up and
I can pull it up.
we'll make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate sometimes, I know sometimes people do misspeak every now and then, sometimes they mean this or they mean that, but that's the importance, though, too, of making sure you know what you're saying before you say it.
Right. Because success, I assume, to mean, some level of competitive balance within the league and or contending for, but now we're saying it means championships.
Is that? I'm pretty sure that's what I said was championships, but I'm gonna go back and
Let's go
find
back
it.
to 858 on the night of the original debate. It's pretty simple. But anyway, go ahead and go forward with your conversation, because otherwise I'll let you pull it up and I'll have more.
Anyways, so my point was, and if I did say success, my point was the only team that had a longer drought than the Atlanta Hawks is the Sacramento Kings. I never said that the Hawks weren't better than the Kings. Obviously, we know they're in a lot better shape than they are, historically and consistently. But here's some numbers. So like you said earlier, you don't want to go all the way back to the beginning, right? Because it gets kind of funky when we get down into the 50s and 60s.
Whatever's
So you want to do 80s?
Choose what's comfortable. I think more of what we need to talk about is within the most recent success period of the Hawks, or any most recent non-success period, if it's going to support your case. I'm going to, whichever period you want to go to. I think the 80s will be what you want to present. I think the
80s and forward,
millennium will be. Yeah.
Well,
I think whatever you want to present is what you present.
Yeah.
I will present a case.
Well, if you go in total,
Huh?
if you go in total, right? They've been around for 69 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
They've had 4 final appearances. That was in 1961, 1960, 1958.
Is that good?
Right.
That's 60
Oh,
years ago.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
The one championship they did have, 1958, and that was still when they were considered St. Louis. They weren't Atlanta.
Right. There was still a franchise that is a Hawks franchise, and that's what the discussion was. But that's fine.
Okay. So even out of then, if you just go to the 80s, okay, 11 out of the 26 times they've been there, they were only rated a 4-seed or better. That's 42%.
Mm-hmm.
Finals conference. Last time they were there, 2015. Time before that, 1970.
Mm-hmm.
That's still considered St. Louis.
Okay.
NBA Finals, like I said, last time, 1961, St. Louis. 15 out of 26. They were rated 5-seed or over. So 5 to 8.
Okay. All right.
That's 58% of the time
Okay.
that they're a 5-seed or higher.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
So out of 30 teams, 16 get into the playoffs.
30
That's
teams haven't
52%.
30 teams haven't been in the league for all those aggregate years.
That's why I said we're
30
going to the
teams weren't even in the league in 1980. So your argument is incongruent.
Okay, well, I might be short there, but
And the
even if
80s, then the
it's
80s,
30 or 28 or
Hold on.
26, it doesn't matter.
well, it does matter, but finish your case. Finish your case.
Nah.
All right. So 5 out of 26 of them, they were rated 7 or an 8 seed from 1980. That's 19% of the playoffs they were in. They were
Mhm.
below the top 50% of the teams in the league. But yet they still get in the playoffs. That's what you're going to give them credit for. But it's not that hard when you're letting in over half the league into the playoffs. They're a mid-level team.
All right. Shot down.
All right, I got some more. Here we go. Let's keep going.
Let him finish. Let him finish. He's got some more.
Jeez.
All right.
James brought the notes.
Their overall win record is like .48. Where's that? I got it right here. It's actually yeah,
It's 4-9-7.
43-1 of all time. That's their postseason record. Their all-time,
No, their all-time-
including postseason, is .493. That is
Right.
below 500. So
Right.
if that doesn't scream mid-level, then I don't know what mid-level is.
Well, then, would you check all the teams in the league? Because you'll find that there's only 6 teams in the entire league for the history of their franchises that are in excess of 4-9. Check all the leagues. Check all the leagues. Their ancient win, which I don't consider a part of this argument because their ancient win is not what we're talking about. We're talking about what people can touch, see, and feel. We're talking about a period when every one of these 30 teams are in the mix and have been in the modern millennial period in the most recent stretch in the 2000s.
Just
And
trying.
this team has the 7th place for overall wins. If that doesn't qualify them for at least being a contending franchise during a stretch, are they a contender this year? No.
You see
Are they a
it?
contender next year? Who knows? But have they proven that they can be a contender based on 454 wins in a 10-year stretch for the 7th slot in the NBA? And if we're talking about tiers that we originally said were in the top 10, you were at the top echelon, you were at the middle if you were at 11, 2. If that's the case, Golden State was a mid-level team until 4 years ago when they ramped up all those wins and barely slipped by 13 wins in 10 years, with setting a new record and everything. By 13 wins, they slipped by the Hawks. If not for that, they're a mid-level team, but yet they got championships. Wins and losses dictate the end of an era and an end of your success run. But you are not a failure until you fail to no longer exist. The Hawks are rebuilding now after the loss of a couple of core players, the biggest one in 2016 being Al Horford, but they were in a great place, and they can be there again. The Cavs were in the lowest of places. They were in the lowest of places. I'll give you one of the great examples of that over the course of, everyone would consider the Pelicans now a junior contender now. The Pelicans over that same 10-year stretch leading up to 2018 now, basically, they had two better seasons than the Hawks in that 10-year stretch. But because of their most recent 48-34 season against this last pugent season of the Hawks, they now have been catapulted. So that one season measures them as a contender, that others will put in that top 10 now on eyesight. But the performance, the aggregate performance, is being, in this case, denigrated and disregarded. So for that reason, again, if you want to view the optics of one season, if you want to view the optics of 4 seasons, to say that justifies a team being, always has been, always will be, and will never be a contender, already they've proven they can be a contender by ending up in the last 4 years. They ended up first in the East. They have been 7th overall in the entire league in the last decade. So I rest my case on wins and losses on the case of never have been, never will be, because there is no justification on anything I've heard that would show that this team has never been or can't be competitive. They've proven it by being 7th in the league for the most recent decade.
All right, James, I see you. I see you ready. You got that big counter hook coming.
Oh, yeah, that's ridiculous. I never once said that they weren't competitive. Never once. Never, Shot Doc. But here, let's go. You want to go to the 10-year, right? The past 10 years. In 2013, they went 38-44.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
That's 2014 that they went 34.
2013,
They went
2014.
38-13.
Because it's always double loop. And then from there, the best year they ever had was 2015 at what, 60-22? That's the only thing they have going for them, and they ran straight out the playoffs.
What was the record of the Cleveland
Will you
Cavaliers?
All
let me finish?
right, shot. Let him.
No, but if you were going to take it,
Oh my.
24-58.
This is getting fun now.
okay,
James, go
it
ahead.
was better than everyone who's won a title since then.
I was waiting for a while for it to finally get fun. It got fun.
Better than Golden State the same year, and it was better than the Cavs.
Hey, guess what? You keep saying that I'm saying they're not competitive, and I never once said that. I said they were a mid-level. What does that mean? That means they're competitive.
You said they.
And then if you go back into
You said
my
never
turn
had-
up on your goddamn screen,
all right.
and it'll say,
Let him finish. Shot.
and I said they haven't figured out how to get over the hump yet, so they're still a mid-level team.
All right.
That's what I said. But you keep wanting to put words in my mouth. I didn't call them competitive. I didn't say that. I said, nope. They've always been a mid-level team, and they always will be, at least for now, until they prove otherwise. So, and then you want to bring up Golden State? Well, guess what? Look what Golden State did. They turned it around. I
rest my case on the fact that you said
predict the
never
future.
will be, and the Golden State showed what you can do coming
That's
out.
what it looks like.
and
Yes.
winning
Look what they just did. Shot Doc, they just went, what was it again? 24-58. That was last season. So their future doesn't look that bright, bro. Sorry.
Golden State's didn't look too good either when they went 24-58 either. But 6 years later,
but
NBA.
you're using hindsight.
What? God. It only applies for. Hindsight only applies for you. It only applies
I'm
for
not
you.
using hindsight.
Oh, you change the optic every
No,
time.
I didn't. You do. You're the one that keeps trying to put words in my mouth.
All right, so just for clarity's sake, okay, James, you're saying again, just so this is clear, when you say that they're mid-level,
This has been good.
or they're not competitive, you mean that they're just not at a level of a team like. Golden State
Drunken
or
Monkey
something
just
like that.
messaged
Yeah.
when there's a battle.
We
Should I call the whole MegaCast group and film it?
And then shot.
Yeah?
Don't holler.
Do it?
Alright.
Alright.
Edit that out, but don't holler.
Alright, ready?
That was not the
I'll
argument,
call
and that's
you
why-
in the MegaCast, okay?
He asked me a question.
That was why I asked you to put the debate up, because I knew he was going to change the optic. Because
I
I'm.
didn't.
I don't
I
think-
right to the nose.
All right, so James, that's what you're trying to say. Shot
What
Doc.
I'm saying is,
I've never argued the fact that as of today,
he's
that
wanted to use
one of
10
the
years.
teams, that's stupid. I'm much better IQ of the game to say that the Hawks today are competitive. That was never the argument. It was never have been, never will be. He already backed off the
An
Hall.
elite team. They haven't.
Okay, so this, I think we're. All right, I think I got. All right, let's try to bridge the gap here a little bit.
And
All right.
And if you just want to use the last 10 years, 16 of 30 teams get into the playoffs. So that means 53% of the league gets to play in the
I
playoffs.
use wins, losses. I didn't use playoff. I used wins and losses.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
told you they just went 23-58, 24-58.
It doesn't matter. I used total losses. Total,
2013, they went 38-44.
right.
So
But
that's,
name the other years so we can hear them all. You picked out the 2 low years. Now
The
name
best year
the
they've ever had was
The other one-
22, and that was 2016.
what got them to the 7th place. You're naming the low end. We can do the same thing to the Cavs, Golden State, Dallas. We can name.
You can't.
Name the
Guess what? They won championships.
Hey, we can name all of them. We can name everybody's low years.
The last 5 minutes finally got interesting. The beginning wasn't interesting. Like,
I mean, that,
right when my computer shut down was when it got interesting, so.
It is mid-level.
Then name them all.
Exactly.
Name everybody at the same time. Name the same time. Because you
They
can't.
won a
I
championship.
can't. I can name them all. I can name the other team. I haven't what they did in 13. You want to know?
2 times.
The Lakers,
Entire history, they made it to the past semifinal.
they did 27-55 where the Lakers were. That's probably right.
Yeah, they've been in the dunks lately.
Huh? You want to know what the Warriors did during that same time?
The Lakers have won championships. Golden State has won
The
championships.
Lakers haven't
San
won.
Antonio's won.
Lakers haven't won a championship during that run. You're talking about right now.
They're average.
Not one. Right. But you put them because LeBron's on the team. Where will you put them in the top tier? Name
Right
it.
now?
Name
Right
the
now, no.
teams in the league.
all
Name
right.
it.
Right now, the Lakers at best will be top.
Come on, Brandon, let them fight. Come on.
Then name the top 10 teams. Name the top 10 teams. Name it.
I don't have the list with me. I'm outside, bro. I don't even have a computer by me. Why don't you keep trying to debate your argument for
Because
the Hawks?
I'm,
Because they never won a championship.
because I've got them in the top 10, you can't pull them out then. Because I just named the top 7 and you haven't named the top 10. I've given you a reason for them to be considered as a top 10 team because over the last decade, they had more wins than 23 other teams in the league, placing them in the 7th slot. So for that reason, and you've already said that the top 10 teams are in that competitive range. So that is where I am basing it. I'm asking you to replace them with another set of top 10 teams and a justification of why they're there. And you're not willing to do it.
Because I don't have a computer by me, bro. I'm sorry. I don't.
Then you're not prepared for debate.
No, I'm debating because they wanted to bring 10 other teams in.
All right. Prove my point of their 7th position being insignificant.
How many teams are at .97 shot doc means you're so,
I just told you earlier.
They're in the average. They're in the average. Just like they're in the average.
Over 69 years.
Cut it.
Above that, and during that same time frame, when you said other teams that they had the worst drought, I just named you 11 other teams the same drought that they've had, and the ones that they didn't have, of 8 of those 11, they've had a better record than 8 of the other teams that haven't won. And they had 23 of the teams in the entire league. 23 teams have had lesser records in the last decade that we covered going into this season after Horford.
This goes back to 1950 as well, bro. They're .97. How many
Guys, I think James the most calm out of all the two. I'm shocked. James is calm.
Why that, then so be it. And everybody listen to the discussion. I'm talking about right now that everybody can touch and feel, and that is in 2016, he had the best over 23 other teams in the entire NBA. Therefore, they have the ability to be competitive, and they got themselves.
I never said they couldn't. That's what you're saying. You're saying I said that, and I never said it.
Well, yeah, no, yes, you did.
I never said it once.
All right, James. Let's let him try to pull this up. All right, Shadak. You say you got evidence that shows that he does. Let's.
Yeah, I'm just going to the date, and
let's see that.
All right.
I never once said they weren't competitive. Not once. I said they were mid-level.
Okay.
When did we start? Was it Thursday or Friday?
I think it was Thursday.
I didn't go to the computer.
Okay, I just want to make sure because all I got to do is go to 8:58. From there,
I don't even know where all my notes went. I got so mad.
Awkward
Yeah,
silence
buddy.
now.
Obviously, when you're talking about this modern iteration of the Hawks, I mean, there's been periods of their history that they haven't been.
Looks like a roller coaster.
Yeah, but that's the way it is with a lot of franchises. You see,
okay. Here's the statement. Here's the statement. If you can read it, the statement reads, and I'll read it and then I'll put it up to the camera. It says Atlanta will always be a mid-level team. They always have been and always will be. They've never been a top marquee team. Now, at that particular time. Now, we later, which we'll show, tiered, as you admitted, was tiered at the top 10, then 11 to 20, and then 20 to 30. Now, that is the first one. Okay. Now, the other one that reads, it says, all right, that let's see. Let's see. Hold on.
Good luck.
that was
Try to
pretty
find me
fun.
ever said the word competitive because you ain't gonna find it, buddy.
All right.
No, well, actually, what you said was they were horrible. So we backed off that. We've already discredited that one, and you've conceded that they're not.
I had that in the debate, yeah, with Brandon when he asked me to clarify. I said I didn't mean to say that, and I said mid-level like 100 times.
Yeah. So I guess James, to my question is then can you be a mid-level team then and still be competitive in the NBA, or is it only possible for a marquee team?
No, absolutely you can, but when you think about a marquee team, right?
All
We're
right.
talking about the teams that the big players are looking to go to.
Okay.
And I don't know anybody that's really shopping and trying to get to Atlanta.
All
It
right.
never
Carmelo.
happened. It never happened. Now,
Carmelo,
has Atlanta had good
fellas.
years? Absolutely. Have they been competitive? Yes. But you have to think about it.
Atlanta has, again,
Playoffs allow 53% of the teams in. So you don't got to be that great actually to get in. You just ain't got to be horrible.
but I understand. But playoffs has never been my argument. Wins and losses was my argument. You can shake your head and do all the antics. That I've never used playoffs. Have I used playoffs once, Brandon? So let's not argue playoffs because I've not used playoffs.
Because they haven't had any success.
You just said players aren't getting. They had in that same decade they had more All Stars that have gone on to marquee status from their venue to others on free agency.
Man,
For more
where's
money.
Drunken
They have
Monkey,
had
man?
Players there that have come.
I want him
and
to
they have
watch
had players
this
to go.
crap.
They're one of only 3 franchises in that decade that had 5 or more All Stars. And
Let me add someone.
Team right now by himself.
well, yeah, but that's one team now. But during that same run, guess what? They only had 3. And yet, to be proven if all 5 are All-Stars yet until next year. They've added one that was an All-Star elsewhere, but not
Is that good?
in a Warriors
I'm
uniform.
pretty sure they've all been on the All-Star team.
No, they have not in a Warriors uniform. 4 of them have been for the first
No,
time.
but in history, I mean, you want to keep bringing up history and shit. I mean, so it counts, doesn't it?
History and shit, people. History and shit.
All right.
Brandon, please
Why don't you count the history?
All right.
moderate to reasonableness. All right.
Yeah.
They're
As
not
far as
reasonable.
For 4, and that's history. We're talking about 4. The 5th one was just added this summer. Where's the history? I mean,
That's 5 on 1.
History, guys. History. That's all we care
and
about.
that needs to add debate.
All right, and what we're seeing as far as though too, I think I'm seeing a difference in how you guys define the success and stuff like that. Shot Dog, you're focusing a lot on the regular season. James, you're going more towards postseason. So, Shot Dog, you're saying if you have a lot of wins in the regular season, regardless of what happens in postseason, that's a success.
I'm saying that you are constantly, when what happened eventually when Golden State finally got to the playoffs, what happened? What happened during the drought? What happened to the drought of the Jazz once they lost Jerry Sloan? And finally, once they got out of the doldrums of getting
That was a
there,
sad
and
day
after
for
3,
me,
4,
man.
5 years, what happened? You know, quite frankly, they weren't supposed to make it this year. They got lucky with a draft pick, and they held together the rest of the core. They got a great coach. They got an improved coach, and all of a sudden, losing an all-star player didn't happen. As long as you are in the hunt, as long as you are continuing to place yourself in a position where you're winning more than 500 of your game, of which, you know, using that same premise of understanding, you're talking about during that particular period of time, that range that we talked about, not one time in that 10-year period that I discussed was there ever a season when they got into the playoffs, they only had one, and he quoted it. That was in 2014, 13-14 season. They were 38, no, it was one season, 38 and 44 during that 10-year run until last year, post Al Horford, that they obviously had their worst season trying to ride the backs of only Schroeder because they had a bad free agent summer. And at the end of the day, now they're in a gut mode of retooling that franchise. So at the end of the day, but every franchise that has somehow assumed some level of success, the LA Lakers right now, for that same 10-year period, the LA Lakers, who are still considered a marquee team. It doesn't matter if we go past that period of time. The question was, would they ever come back? It has taken them during that entire period of time, during that 10-year period of time, it has taken them 7 years, to include 2 of those years with Kobe Bryant closing out his career.
Okay.
To return to what is now an anticipated, and remember now, we're talking about an anticipated, playoff contender again. But they went the final 2 years of even a Kobe Bryant period. So the dips and things that people go through, even for the franchise and marquee, franchises in the NBA sustain themselves over time with what? Rebuilding, gutting, making mistakes in the draft, making home runs in the draft, making acquisitional moves. There's not but three ways you build a franchise, and that is trades, acquisitions, and the draft. It's simple as that. And you're going to make mistakes along the way. You're going to make some successes along the way. And ultimately, you know, the luck of the draw with two franchises has everybody basically degenerating the whole concept of other franchises because of what the Golden State did in a 3-year draft stretch and what the Celtics have done in a 2-year draft stretch. And all of a sudden, now, with one slip of the year, we're going to say that Atlanta Hawks are basically, and this is my term, not his, but it is being said openly, and that's what I debate to many, calling them a dumpster fire, when in actuality, if you go back and look, this has been one of the most resilient teams in the NBA because even with and without marquee players, they continue to be competitive. They continue to be a playoff run, and even with a dip, they've come out of dips. They went from that 38-44 that he mentioned, well, that's why I said keep reading, because guess what the next season was? 60-22. That's a 22-game turnaround one season.
What was last season?
And from there, they went 48.
Yeah.
They lost Al Horford.
And then what was last season?
But again, so they're
What was
retooling.
last season?
And where were the Cavaliers?
I want to hear you say it.
Yeah, where were the Cavaliers after LeBron?
24 and what?
When LeBron, when they lost LeBron, they went 33-49, 24 and 58, 21-45, 19-63. But before he left, guess what? They won 61 games. Understand, it only takes the movement of one player to change the view of a franchise. But immediately they come back and they win 57 games and in a 2-year stretch and win an NBA title.
And 60-something years,
If you continue
the
to be
Hawks haven't
competitive,
figured out how to do it.
competitive team, and I continue to say that they are a competitive franchise.
I agree.
Nothing said here today changes me. All of you may agree, but for me, they continue to be a competitive franchise. They've proven they can run 10-year stretches. They can rebuild and retool. And they've proven it, and they've proven it over a couple of decades from the Dominique Wilkins era forward now to what was a post Al Horford era.
All right.
So,
I agree. They're
Yeah,
a
and
competitive
you're-
team. I never once said they're not competitive. Never
Yeah.
once. That's why you can't pull it up. But what they have for
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
in 60 years,
So
they haven't been able to get over that hump.
Hold on.
And I even said that in the text that you can pull up, buddy.
So Atlanta, here it is right here, another one. So Atlanta hasn't done shit except mid-level. I gave you a 10-year.
Thank you.
I gave you a 10-year stretch that they were a top 7 team in the league. You said they've been mid-level. I'm pulling them all up. I mean, you said some others.
right.
I'm just not going to get into each one.
If
But
you wanted me to, I could actually make the skewed one because, like you said, I asked you and you haven't been able to tell me how many teams are grouped together in that 10-year period to be right around.
I said 6.
9.
There were 6 teams ahead of. There were 16. I said there were 16 ahead of them.
Above. Is that not what I said? I just said above.
They are ranked 7th all
How
time.
many? How many?
All right.
groups?
Go to land basketball, and everybody looking, go to land basketball. They're listed in succession. And I can tell you that in the historical end, go to land basketball, LAND, and you will find they're 16. You asked the question, I just, I know where the resources are. I don't.
That's not my question.
Okay.
That's not my question.
Cut it.
How many teams are grouped up into the 0.95-ish range, give or take a couple points? How many teams are
I
grouped
don't
in
know how many. I know that there are 6 above them, and that there are 23 below them. I don't
Wait, what?
know. It's not that.
Let me see.
They're still in the top 10. Now you're going to skew the top 10, so you're just going to skew the top 10. See.
Skewing the top 10?
We
All
were.
right.
It's
I'm just saying there's a difference between a congratulated
new
average.
change the optic because it always happens. Every debate change the optic.
I never did.
That's
No,
number 7.
All
And then
right.
7, if somebody's a half of a point, it doesn't, I don't care. They're number 7. If somebody wins a basketball game, 1 point, they won the game. You
Yeah,
don't
they damn sure didn't win no
and
championship, did
won
they?
a team by 1 point versus 20. At the end of the day, you count the loss.
All right.
They win no championship.
All you want, but at the end of the day,
I don't need to argue.
a team has been out of mid-tier, and they can win again. They have the opportunity to win again. And the teams, there have been teams who have come from behind them that were mid-level.
think James is
and to
frozen.
say that
Oh.
they will always be, have been mid-level, and will always be because what?
Until they prove me otherwise, why wouldn't I think no?
Okay, well then, that's right. Well, that's not a statistical understanding. That goes back to, that is your opinion, and mine is backed on the fact that, like,
60 years of history.
that in the last 10 years, they have been in the top 7 for a 10-year stretch, and with wins versus losses, and that puts them in the top tier of competitive teams, which says they can. If the one is the one we have to satisfy, then I will tell you this. Then that weak opinion has already been blown to Siberia.
You got destroyed, bro. I never said they
Destroy what? You didn't bring
destroy you.
you didn't bring
All right.
1951. Bring
You know, Derek, we gotta find weekly battles, like weekly people that wanna fight each other. That's what. Let's message the MegaCast founders, who we want next week. I want someone.
No, end it with some numbers, bro. End it with numbers. I gave you numbers. You want some
one number.
numbers? I give.
You wanted to harp on. It makes no sense.
I gave you the rankings modern day. You gave me 1951. You
The
got
only number you harp on is that there was top 7.
now. I came to the level. I listened to what you had to say.
Man, I wish I knew what they said before because it cut out, so I have to ask Brandon what they said.
But in that 10-year stretch, guess who else hadn't been there? The Lakers hadn't been. The Lakers haven't even had a better record than them. The Philly.
Horrible.
They're talking modern day. Did I not, Brandon, say modern day? And did you not ask me about modern day? And you asked me, and I said, what did I say to you when he embarked on our conversation? I said to you, I'd like to go the era that you guys could see. Did I not say that? I saw games. I was in the 80s and in the 70s. So I wanted to deal with. Did I not say that to you? And I said,
maybe
I'm
Anthony's
seeing
gonna
it in
watch.
modern day. And I said it can be the most recent 10. It can even be the most recent 20.
Lenny
And
just
if
joined.
it's the most recent 20, then they would have spent a mid-level period in the 90s because they would have been about 12 in wins and losses in the 90s. In the millennial period, they would have gone to the top 7 to 10. And in that period of time, obviously, they have advanced and they've improved. So they've proven they've proven as a franchise that they have the ability to continue to advance their franchise. So my argument was and always will be, and it doesn't matter, shake your head, is that this team has competitive capacity to compete in the NBA and that they are not a horrible team, which we threw that out. But from a mid-level perspective, they are not just a mid-level team. They have been mid-level. They have proven they can get.
Whoa, this is a party now. Let's go. 6 people watching.
And sit there and get over the hump. And until there's 11 other teams. There are 11 other teams that people are holding dear to their hearts that will be watching this that haven't gotten over the hump either.
Guys, we gotta find a fight each week.
That goes to the longevity of their franchise.
We gotta find a fight each week. Let's be real.
Or in another state or anything else. This team at least has a historical background in finals, but
Quinn just joined. What's up, guys?
From a standpoint of wins and losses, being competitive, placing themselves in a position to compete for opportunity to play for championship.
This has been going on for an hour. I don't see any time ending soon. This might be like a 5-hour video.
Season out now, all of a sudden, for the sake of an argument, then guess what? there's no way to ever determine the value of any franchise, whether or not they belong in a competitive environment.
Jeez, this is awesome, man. It's awesome.
Because you made an interesting point as well
Hold on,
earlier.
okay, hold on, Brandon.
Yeah.
God, this
It's
man-
gonna be up on YouTube and Facebook, but
But if you look,
this is just live.
You're acting like the Hawks are on this increasing rate.
Because there couldn't be 3 people on the live video.
It just went 24 and like 58.
But every
So we needed a moderator so they don't kill each other.
The other number in. So they'll peak, but they always seem to mess it up.
Because we didn't really want them to kill each other.
I just named
60 years in a row.
I named marquee teams. I named LA. I can go back. I
I
can.
said 60 years.
No, I took this same decade. I didn't go back 50, 60 years.
All right.
See, let me. The Lakers during this last 35 and 47, 26 and 56, 17 and 65. Kobe Bryant, Kobe Bryant, 17 and 65. 20, it doesn't matter. 27 and 50. Doesn't matter. We're comparing the years of a dip. It does matter. You just said, and I'm just showing you, every franchise takes dips. But they went 6 years. They went 6 years of
Let's
dip.
go! Drunken Monkey!
5 rings. But guess what? They went 5 consecutive years where they were in the doldrums of the West. They weren't just behind the Rockets. They weren't just behind any of the top tier franchise. They were behind.
Let's go, doggy!
Damn near in the league.
Doggy!
So when you say dip, every team takes a dip. Every team takes a dip. Took a dip. The Suns took a dip when their 2 marquee players left. Every team. You can't. Horford left.
I don't even know anymore.
That's not uncommon. But all of a sudden, we're going to give them credit for taking a great surge and going from 34 and 38 and 44 going to 60 and 22 in one season. Name how many. And that was just done 4 years ago. And that was done.
Last year they went
That was done at a time when Mr. King was
All right. I think it's safe to say that no matter what team, like you guys both agree on the fact that teams take dips throughout their history. But Pumpcheck, you mentioned earlier about marquee, and you're talking about how Atlanta is not a marquee team, and I think some of that you did tie a little bit of correlation in this, like regular season and playoffs, because you mentioned again they're they have the best record in the regular season, but they don't win championships. That in your mind doesn't make them a marquee team. Golden State, I think you can go back to the way they used to be. Their dips and valleys. During when they won with Wilt, but then when they went through a long period of time without having much success, they went through the '90s with the victory that they had there, and then it took them a long time to find a success, and now they are a marquee team.
But they figured it out. Exactly.
Yeah. And what you're trying to say that Atlanta
never
won't
figured
figure
it out.
Atlanta,
I'm not
you're
saying
saying
that they're not. I hope they do, but for 60 years they haven't.
Atlanta, you're saying Atlanta didn't figure it out. In actuality, for the entire amount of years that we're talking about, the franchise has still been competitive in their end, and the fact that the Warriors have had a 4-year run of winning 3 championships, so they of course now satisfy their and certify their surge to at least some level.
Shit together.
okay. Shout out. I guess I got a question for you. Would you call then the Atlanta Hawks, like as far as like the current iteration of the Hawks, past week, would you call them a marquee team?
Do I call them a marquee team?
Yes.
No, I've never called them a marquee team. I have called them. I've never called them. But that let me tell you, that goes back to the optic. There's no boom to it because I was never debating that. I was debating what I said I was debating, and that is the fact that they are a competitive team, and they were not always a mid-level or worse team, and that they will not always be one based on their history. And that's what I was debating. Anything else, that's why I told you, don't change the optics or waste my time. You know what? I get so tired. You know, I sit back and I listen. And once you get a chance to talk, I listen. When you shut it down, then I talk. But you got something to say every time. Guess what? That interruption is the mere fact. You know why? Because I know it makes a point. Because my point is simple. They have reached a point that they have proven they can be competitive. And that's all that was. And to say that they were horrible, we erase that. Let me quit saying that. But at the same time, to say that they were always a mid-level team, will always be and always have been, that was what I was dealing with. So I asked the question. We got the tiers. So I showed where that wasn't the case. Because they were a top-tier team in the league. They were always considered that by analysts and others. That's why I knew. I didn't have to pull the numbers when I started my basis. I knew where it was. Having been a part of the overall seasonal analysis, I know where they were during that 10-year stretch. Because they're one of the regional teams. We're involved in those communications, programming shows. I know where they were. And they were considered just what I'm saying they are. They were considered one of the top-tier teams. Simple as that. I don't care what anybody's opinion is, as long as the opinion of those that were there and then the numbers can back it up. The people in the league consider them there. And because of it, their games were shown more frequently. Because of it, they were at a top-level tier of selling merchandise throughout the United States during that time. Because they were there. And of course, the loss of Al Horford has caused them to, they have dipped again. But it's up to them to now still simple. My debate, only what I told you was about that they were always, forever be. And that's what debate has been. It's not about any of that other secondary stuff that changes the opposite. And that I made clear before the
Drunken monkey.
Yeah.
Short talk. They've only been the number one seed going into the playoffs since 2018 one time. One time.
Hey, Golden State had never been until 4 years ago.
So,
But if someone had said that with Mark Jackson under control, when I was supporting him, that they weren't heading towards being a force, I would have argued in his behalf that Golden State was on its way. And it got accelerated, which, you know, Steve Kerr gets the credit for. It got accelerated. I would have said they're 5-6 years away. Well, they were only 2 years away at that time. But the point being is, just in that matter of time, they have spearheaded. The first time they lose 2 of those 4 players, do you think they are still going to control the West? No, they're not going to. They were fortunate. They were good. They made the right picks. The Celtics did the same thing. Along the way, we have no idea what's getting ready to happen with this year's draft. We have no idea what some of the players that have been drafted, to include the players coming into the Atlanta franchise, what they're going to end up doing. Because draft picks, free agents, and other acquisitions make the difference in what happens in a season from one to the other. You think that Atlanta went from 38 to 60 just because, you know, somebody found the range? No. They found the right complement of players in the offseason and propelled that team to a 60-win team. And
what happened? Why did they go to 24 then?
The next season, they had 3 starters injured for 40% of that season. 3 players injured, and they still, and it wasn't 40, it was 38, and they finished 4th. It was 48, and they finished 4th.
I'm sure it was 24. 24 wins.
No, it was not. They went from 60. No, they didn't. They went from 60 to 48. That was. It was 4 seasons later. They went to 20.
I said last year.
Okay, last
year because they lost Al Horford and they lost Millsap. They lost Millsap and Al Horford.
That just completely destroys your entire team.
The same. No, Horford left.
I mean, the Celtics lost record in Kawhi Leonard. They still took 7 games deep in the conference finals.
Because they had the right draft picks, goes right back.
Oh, great management.
And like we said here, we have no idea what these draft picks will bring in the ensuing year. But look at where the Celtics were 3 years ago before they had Kyrie Irving. Look where they were.
Well, yeah.
But that doesn't count because the only numbers that count are the ones that sell your position, not the ones. I quoted them all. I quoted the little numbers and the big numbers. But at the end of the day, the aggregate numbers, the blend of what you're doing, it's your body of work. It's not what one season does. Because at the end of the day, one season at LA right now, I've already shown you. One season at LA right now is worth every dumpster fire that for 5 consecutive seasons of the one that you want to talk about, the Hawks. But LA had 5 consecutive ones going right into this particular year that were dumpster years. Well,
from 2000 to 2018, 15 years.
Huh? It doesn't
2000 to 2018. No, listen.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they have been they are, and we know
The
the Celtics been they are too.
They've only been in the playoffs.
There's only 2 teams in the market.
6 out of those.
Everybody else has had dips and flows, and if that's the case, we're ready to say because there have been 9 teams to win NBA championships. So that means the remaining 21 are all mid-level teams, correct?
The majority of them, yeah.
No, all of them. You're not the
That's why
majority.
there's a mid-level.
21, all
You have a top, a mid, and a bottom.
But I just
Why it's
said,
called mid-level.
all of them are mid-level or worse, is what you're saying. Other than the nine teams that have won championships.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Okay, well, I disagree with that because if that is the case, then this league, anybody saying all this should be played to everybody, you
You
can't.
can't even call it G League and D League and said that the only top 8 teams were actually in contention. You made a post about it.
And I stand behind that. I have said to you,
What's the difference?
I stand behind that. But that's why I asked you that. So then that's all the teams in the league. So what we're saying is, and I was willing, you wouldn't admit to it. So what you're saying to me is that 21 teams in the league have no chance. No chance. And that's the part.
Everyone has the boxer's chance. No, come on.
The 21
The
teams.
majority of them don't.
Well,
The majority of them don't.
okay, so Philly has no chance.
Very,
The Wizards have no chance. The Heat, well, not the Heat. Let me go back. So you're saying these teams.
Well, I can't predict the future like you said because of the draft. I don't know how that's going to change and how good those players will be.
Because of that, the comment of ever saying never will be, and the team already proven that they can be a part of the competitive environment. The Kings stay in the doldrums. During that when Atlanta was winning 450 games, the Kings won 276. So for them to even come up
What's
with
your point?
discussion,
What's your point? I didn't compare them to the Kings.
totally insignificant and
I didn't even compare them to the Kings. So I don't know what your point is.
because they won basically 168 games more in that same 10-year stretch.
I never compared them to the Kings.
To be considered any part of the conversation with the Kings doesn't matter. So yes, there are teams that are far-fetched. Atlanta is not far-fetched, and Atlanta's market is not a market that players do not want to go to.
Yeah.
Been there before, and it's proven itself with already saying that in that last 10 years, just the 10 years here, that you've had 5 All-Stars in that period of time. You've had many
Five All-Stars on the team right now.
many more before that. So to say that they don't even attract, that's not true. They do attract people to that market. It's just that you have to have a plan for these marquee free agents because basketball has gotten so weak. You only have, and we've already come to that. You only have 12 to 15 superstars in the league, and you've got 30 teams, and we know that there's at least one team that's got 4 or 5 of those top players on it. So if that's the case, I mean, you've got to build, every team in the league has to build around some other level of development of hopefully superstars or finding those superstars. So in the end,
I'm pretty sure you just proved my point, Shot Dog.
they're as highly competitive as any team on the high end, and for a 10-year period, they were inside your top 10 that you considered. Now, if you want to make them a dumpster fire,
I thought they were competitive.
so be it. But they were inside the top 10 as one of the top level teams in the league, and they were considered that way by their NBA peers. They were obviously considered that way by the voters because they put their players in the All-Stars, and their wins and losses prove that they, at the 7th spot, that they beat enough teams that they were better than 23 other teams in the league. Simple as that.
So there was.
On record. That's not an opinion. That's not an opinion.
Players, they're all sitting on about 5 teams, aren't they? So 5 out of 30, last I checked, that's 1/6, is it not?
Now you're gonna change up, so 5 out of 30.
No, I'm using
So 30. What's I don't know what that means, Brandon. You can, as moderator, explain.
1/6.
Explain. I don't know.
That there are 12 to 15 superstars in the league. 5 of them are on one team, the other are on what? 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 at best. Other teams?
Yeah.
It's the you are superstars, but I can tell you this.
You just said it.
And I'm basing it on because I don't think there's but 8. But everybody thinks they're crazy. I don't think it's but 8. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I can't name 15 superstars. I can't name 15 superstars. I can name and stretch it to 10, maybe 12. That's
5 of them are on one team, are they not?
Arguably, I don't know that I don't consider Cousins in the top 10. No, I'm not back. I'm saying I only give 5 if you're going to include 15. If you're going to include 10, I'll say 4 at Golden State because I don't consider Cousins to be in the top 10.
Wow.
I don't consider
only the top 10.
Mike dropped.
To me.
Trashing Boogie,
I didn't say
man.
that I'm right.
Like Boogie wouldn't. Boogie would trash him right now because Boogie would get angry. Let's be
I'm
real.
giving the benefit of the doubt that there's 15. I'm saying I can't name but 10. So in my opinion, if it was my opinion, it would be even a worse end because I would tell you there's only 10.
Well, even if you say 10, you just admitted that 4 were on one team. There's only 6. There's 30 teams.
Too blocked with that damn barley he's drinking. He's not even hearing what I'm saying.
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
Look, the whole superstars. It's a subjective opinion. Right now, we're trying to keep this based on the facts that have been presented. And again, Shot Doc, you're going based again off of a modern thing. James, you're going off of a history. Like going way back to the beginning of the franchise.
Depending on how you win, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, either way, when it comes down to this, like, again, I think we can all, I'm trying to find some agreement here from both of you guys, because I want this thing
That ain't happening, I promise you.
Oh, man. I'll see what I can find.
I still love Shot Doc, I ain't mad at him.
Oh, yeah, no, I wouldn't
will never
expect
agree
anything
on
less.
that.
But, look, I think what you guys are both trying to argue, look, player or teams go through highs and lows, do they not?
I think we both agreed on that.
Yeah. You're going to have dips.
Yeah, and some teams though too, and when they come out, or as they're coming out of one low, they're going into that high. They can become a top tier team, quote unquote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Golden State did it, but Atlanta Hawks never have.
Well, this all depends on those two. Again, that's a subjective thing though as well. What do you define as top tier? And James, you define the top tier as the 1 through 10, right? Is that your top tier? Or is that something different? Right.
So when I said 1 to 10, that was like I said earlier. I said 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, because that's the standard way to break it down, right? Top, middle, low.
All right.
I don't have a computer by me, but you can change. Like that's why I was asking him how many teams are grouped into the .497 group, because you have the 6, and then if you have a .497 and there's 20 teams in that range, that's the average. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Statistically, it's not always as perfect as 10, 10, 10. A lot of times there's a bell there. The bell is where your average is. That's statistics.
Okay, but on that statistics list though, too, Shotdak, you found them to rank at 7th, not tied for 7th.
They ranked 7th in the all-time list, but they had some stretches though that they were horrible that I wouldn't want to use the aggregate, because you take it back to a lot of their big years were back in the 50s and 60s that don't relate to anything, a combination of St. Louis and Atlanta, but during eras. I wanted to get to something that you could touch, taste, and feel, because they had a stretch there with a change in ownership that they were horrible, with an incomplete change of ownership. So to go back and include that,
Man, this battle's so long.
all time. And all time, they ended up just by coincidence.
I don't think it's ever ending.
Ending up in the 7th slot at .493. He said I had a .497. But either way, at the end of the day, they ended up, still in the 7th, which was consistent with the 10-year stretch that they had, prior to the loss of Horford. And so, 10-year stretch that matches up with all the other franchises I mentioned and gave you that ranking, that turned out to be 7-2. That's a coincidence. There's no correlation there, because they had a stretch prior to Dominic Wilkins' era and Spud Webb in that era. They had an era during then that they sustained a lot of losses, that were made up for in the 80s, the mid-90s, and then very much captured in the millennial period in 2000. And so in the 2000 run, they have been a more competitive team than probably most of their other eras when it's all said and done. When you look at the amount of teams and the distribution of the superstar talent, in actuality, these have been their better years, I would say, because this team was able to sustain a bad year and in 1 year turn around a season that is insurmountable. Go and check and see how many teams have gone from 30 to 60 in a single season.
All right.
So we're only going to use the 10-year stretch that you want to use, and nothing else matters, right?
Huh?
Well, no, he's using also though too. You go by even the all-time metrics, and that still lines up inside the 1 through 10.
Yeah,
That's
what I'm saying to you is, when you brought that up, they're still in, and I didn't use that because I felt it was immaterial, because it gravitated to a period that was going to bring up different franchise ownership. So I tried to use more modern day to deal with never have been, always will be, and to refute that. So to include what you brought up, the 497, which is the 7th ranking, it just correlated. But at the end of the day, we know that that's not a matrix today, because Golden State's not in the top. They're not in the top 18 of that.
Yeah.
But Golden State now is, and in the 10-year period, Golden State is. So it would have been incorrect to bring that to the surface, because there's too many teams that have solidified themselves that weren't in there. Because if you use aggregate of that 10-year period I'm talking, there's probably the Mavericks aren't in it. The Spurs aren't in it. There's a lot of teams that aren't in that top 6.
They're going championships. But I'm saying there's a trend, Shot, and the trend is the Atlanta Hawks can never get over the hump, bro. I mean,
and you heard the word, right? Never. That's my point. I'm arguing. They placed themselves in a position that it only takes the acquisition of 1 or 2 players. They've proven the ability to get in, compete, and do it not for 1 season, but to do it for a decade. This team is sitting in the same position that Boston has been in, that the Wizards are now in, that the Philadelphia 76ers in, Toronto's in it now, because prior to that, those teams were considered to be basically dumpster fires, early on in the 2000s. Those were groups that appeared not to have the formula to get back to competing. Now, we're jockeying and debating around whether those teams can overcome the Celtics now. But and proven last year, Toronto did it. Now, have they created their own problems yet? They got rid of a coach. They got rid of a player. They're rebuilding. That's up to them. Maybe they do it again. Who knows? But the point being is that they built to that, and they dipped to areas. They went out and acquired players. Then they rose up again. Those teams have not just been on one solid decline. They have been up and down, up and down. And let's face it, Philly has been what most people call a dumpster fire for the last 10 years. And they've had now 2 years where they've been able to now show some promise. And now they're a prominent, competitive team that if you name the top 10 teams without looking at records or anything, is Philly not going to be one of them? Right. So it's not going to be based on any ability for them to show that they've progressed, that they've gotten over any hump, but they would be in the top 10 right now because of immediate optics.
And again, Shot Duck, I've never argued that they weren't competitive.
Top 10 is tier, not mid tier. That's mid level,
They
and that's
haven't been able to get there yet. I hope they do. I'm not saying they don't have the ability to. They just historically have not done it. It's that simple.
historically they have done it. They haven't done it recently in Atlanta to your satisfaction.
60 years.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it was just 4 years ago that same was. And never is being argued. That is widespread. Am I not arguing the word he just said? They will never do it.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm arguing.
That's what I'm looking at. I haven't seen them do it. They haven't proved it yet.
That's what the optics said about Golden State.
60 years they've never done it.
Well, that's what the optics.
Why would I think
Shout
that?
out
For Cleveland, for that matter, that they would never do it. You know,
LeBron got one.
it's there, but the proof is,
And until they prove me wrong, you can't say that they can do it.
as long as you continue to conduct transactions, seek players through trade, through action,
Everyone's got a puncher's chance.
and it's shown here to be able to compete, and they've shown it. I think 454 wins, 7th place. And all of it matters, and if you hold your head, you can talk and interrupt me all you want. At the end of the day, the data stays the same. That objective, opinionated stuff you're saying has yet to be substantiated, other than you just say one
Shut
doctor
doctor.
done it for you yet, and they haven't. But they
Russian.
not substantiated that they can never do
Or is
it
it
because
I
bullshit?
never said they never. I said in history, it don't look like they will.
Checking.
3
Shut
times.
doc-
You just said it.
Now, repeat it again. I'll repeat it one more time for you, Shot Doc. In 60 years, they haven't proved it yet. So until they do, it doesn't look like they have. It's a trend.
Okay, well, then if that's the argument, that's not a subject of debate to me. If it is for you guys,
All right.
then so be it. I don't have anything else to say to that comment. I have to leave it at that one because that's the same thing that I would say about Mickey Mouse winning Wimbledon. I make the same assertion. Same assertion as that because at the end of the day, I mean that says the truth about everything. You know, whether LeBron James
They've been able to prove it before.
win in LA until he does it, then he'll never do it until he proves to me.
I didn't say never.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see in time. That's obviously the thing with all of these, or with a lot of this right here. You can you're basing it on, you try to predict it based on what you've seen. Obviously, we've got a couple different ways of going about it. One from a historical take going all the way back to the beginning. One based on a more modern take. Obviously, we'll just wait and see which one wins out. Who's right, who's wrong, and hopefully we'll come back and have it the good old-fashioned way to end this debate. But guys, I hope you guys, everyone who's watching right now, enjoyed it. I know I did. It was a little testy sometimes, but hey, that's the way these debates go, and I'm just check. I know. I'm glad to have you guys.
I love you, Shot Doc. I ain't mad.
Love you too. I'm just gonna find a way to talk. When you're not talking, because you never can finish a train of thought with you with all the other antics and everything else and the disrespectful interruptions. If there's anything that probably kills me in any reasonable debate is to break the train of thought when you're trying to get your entire position out. I gave you that respect. I afforded you that respect, and then tried to give what would be my counter to it. You reach that point that you're not willing, your level of impatience or whatever you go through, you're not willing to just sit there, absorb, and then be ready to regurgitate a secondary communication. And so for that reason, I feel like this debate was a failure, but at the same time, I hope that there was some substance that came out of it.
Brandon, what I want you to do is I want you, if you can, go back and record how much talk time he had compared to how much talk time I had. Because I'm pretty sure he had a lot more talk time than me. But anyway, it was super fun, Shot Talk. I love you, man. I ain't mad. It was fun. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Brandon, you were awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. It was fun. I got stuff to do.
And in all actuality, I will assert to that being correct. That I think I took up more air in the room, but I think I did because I had more to say.
All right. I think I still won.
All right, well, you know what? We'll leave this up to the people that are on my thoughts.
Good. I'll go with your vote.
Okay,
I'll
guys.
go with your vote and their vote. So you won. So we're disconnected.
So who won this debate? Let's hear it, guys. Who won it?
Sounds good, buddy.
Comment your thoughts
What?
on who won, what you thought of the battle, and then we'll go from there. We'll tally the votes and declare winners. So,
All right.
until then, thanks again, Shot Doc and Punk Check. You guys have a good one. Take
All
care.
right, man. Y'all have a good night, man. Have a good
Yeah.
one, guys.
Yeah, Atlanta
Yeah.
will win that debate because that's the most press they've got in 5 years.
Huh.